Hi everyone. Reading is an important skill, and regardless of what purpose you're reading it for, so if you're reading it for writing a report, or if you're reading it for pleasure or anything, it needs some skills and ability to grasp the information. And for students, especially who are reading for writing their assignments, and researchers who just want to get some information out and to be able to then write a research article, something it becomes even important, and you need to understand the process of reading. So in this talk, we are going to look at some of the strategies which can be used to ensure that your reading is effective and you're taking effective notes when you're reading around it. So we're going to talk about note taking and writing strategies, and um, things that would help you to then write better afterwards. One thing which is very important to note is that to be able to write better, you need to read widely. So read as much as possible, read different type of information presented differently, and that does allow you to develop your vocabulary and also allows you to write it for different audience in different ways. So today, this is what we are going to talk about. My name is Bhavin Ali, and I work as a senior lecturer at the University of Sheffield. So you could be reading various different things. It could be reading through book, the whole book or book chapters. It could be newspapers, it could be magazine, and it could be any information available on the World Wide Web. It could be anything on any website, on social media account, or anything else at all. These days, there are quite a lot of for example, chat messages, etc., that you could also read. So there are quite a variety of reading sources that you can get involved in. But when it comes to writing for assignment or writing for reading for assignments or reading for writing your assignments, writing your articles or literature, then you need to understand few tips. So first of all, read or at least skim all parts of the sources. So if you're reading a book, for examples, make sure that you have read from the cover, you've read the any information that the authors have provided in the preface, you've read introduction, if there are any footnotes, if there is any other information at the end note, if there is information available about the author. So all that information helps you make your mind up about the effectiveness of that particular thing that you're reading. So make sure that you read the whole information, or at least scan through the whole information that is being given to you. Identify the type of reading. Is it a book? Is it a journal article? What is it that you're reading, and who is it written for? Who is it aimed at? What did the author think then when they were writing it? Were the audience in their mind were students? Were the audience politicians? Were the audience healthcare professionals? Because that information would then help you assess the information provided in the context, and you'll be able to make your mind up more clearly uh, about the information and how it is relevant and useful for you. Who is the author? So ask questions about authors, about what do you know about them, what sort of work they do, what kind of person they are, why have they written that particular book, what sources for information or methods they may have used to gather information to write that particular book. So as much information as possible would allow you to again to understand the context of the book or the source that you're reading much more clearly. Why are you reading the source? What is your purpose of reading it? Are you reading it for pleasure? Are you reading it for writing your essay, assignment, thesis, anything else like that? Or are you reading to understand the concept better? What is the purpose that you are reading? And that just helps you how to take notes and how to take information from the source that you are reading. Plan your reading. So it is important that you if it is a book and you may not be able to read it in one sitting, so maybe you can kind of find time and slot that time in, that how you're going to read that information. If you're writing it for an assignment or for a thesis, so give yourself deadline as to in what time period you have to finish that reading. If it is a recommended reading by your instructor or lecturer at the university or at the school, then it tells you that, when do you need to finish that reading. So try and kind of plan backwards and make sure that you've taken account of the dates that you need to understand and that you need to keep a note of. Read your reactions, questions, and make notes. So make sure that when you're reading through it, make sure that you keep a note of your reactions, as to what did you think when you were reading something. What was there, anything that surprised you? Was there anything that upset you? Was there anything that was not very clear? Were you clear about the meaning and the information that was provided to them? So write it down somewhere. This will allow you to understand your emotions while reading the book, and what you felt when you were going through it. And these can then help you discuss your points later on, if for example you were writing a review of that particular reading source, or you were going to discuss it in your class or anything else. So just make sure that you are making notes in different forms. Making notes is an interesting thing these days, because as the books are, because books could be on Kindle app, or it could be the online apps that are available, and you could be reading on them, or you could be reading a paper copy of the book or the article. If you're reading a paper copy of the book and article, it is easier to take notes on the paper. But even if you're reading electronically, there are still ways through which you can take the notes and write it somewhere, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Once you have read it, and while you're reading it, it may be useful to discuss what you're reading and what your views are through someone. And these days, social media and other places provide a very good opportunity which you can use to discuss your ideas with others. If other friends or other people are reading the same book, maybe you could talk to them and you could share what did you think about the particular source, and if there was anything that you learned, how has that made your thoughts different, and things like that. That just allows you to analyze your thoughts in more clarity. Think about what are the gaps in the information. What is it which is not provided by the author and which you think is missing? What is it that you would have liked to have seen in that particular book more? Do you agree with the author? Do you agree with the information provided in the book or article or whatever source that you're reading, or you do not? And if you do, or if you don't, what is the reason for your agreement or disagreement? Why is it? So try and provide some kind of rationale, and try and think of why you think you do or do not agree with it. What is missing? Is there anything that you think the author should have covered and provided more information about? What is it which is missing? What if you were writing that book? What would you have done differently? What would you have added more? So these are the elements of analysis that which help you not only understand the text better, but they also allow you to reflect on your thinking about that particular topic, and help you develop your ability to an understanding about the topic as well. Take notes. So as I said earlier on, write as you read. So if there are any information that you have come across, and anything that you find surprising, anything that you find new, anything that you find different, just take some notes and write it down. That just allows you to capture the thoughts that you have, depending on what sort of thing you're using. If it's in paper and pencil kind of a paper document that you're using, you can keep notes at the side, or you can tag notes into your book or the article that you're reading. You can clip it with the notes with the document. But if you're using an electronic source, so for example Kindle or any other PDF reader or something like that, you could use highlighters, and you could use note-taking facility in there to capture your notes. Some apps and some programs also allow you to record your reactions and record it verbally, so you could always use that kind of strategies as well to help you. So I've already talked about keeping your notes with the book. So if you're using electronic book, it will always be there, because once you've saved it, don't forget to save your work once you're finished reading, because otherwise you can lose it very easily. So these strategies will allow you to have that information at one place. Also, as I said earlier on as well, talk about what you have found, and how you see that particular book with others. And if you have written the notes, and if there is any way to share that information to others, you may want to do that, and to be able to understand what they think. You may also want to draw while you read. So it could be just drawing or doodling or any of those kind of things. If you're a visual learner and you would like to learn by doodling and by having the drawing different kinds of figures, you may find that useful, and trying to do that may also be a useful strategy if that works for you. Reflect. Think about what is it that you learned from it. What is it that you felt or you agreed with? What is it that you thought it was not really um, uh, your point? What is it that, what did you think of your reactions as you went through it? Keep a note of the overall. So you're taking notes while you're reading throughout, but then take some time once you've finished a section or a chapter or the whole book, and take some time to jot down what did you think overall, and take some notes and write it down there. There is a tendency that we think we remember that information, and even if we have reflected, we don't try and write it. But writing helps you go back to it afterwards and see what did you think, and it also solidify your thinking around that particular topic. So do take some time to just write down something, even if it's a note format, because chances are that if you haven't written, you're going to forget it in a few days time. So I think that is something which really helps going forward. Once you've done all these points, then it is time to get to writing. So if, for example, you were reading it for the purpose of an assignment or an essay or a literature review or something, this is the time that you have to get to writing. Think what you need to write. So you need to know what are the parameters under which you're writing, who is it that you're writing for, what is your topic, and what are your main points that you want to discuss and provide information for. So do think about that. Schedule your writing, schedule it in a way that you could write better, you can plan better, and you've given yourself enough time to write the information, and you have got the time to go back and read through the information and proofread it as well. Plan your research, read anything else that you need to read to be able to write that particular work. Write a draft, write something that comes into your mind. A lot of time people keep on thinking that they would read once they have got very solid ideas in your mind. Depends on what kind of person you are. For some people it works, for others it doesn't. So it may be useful to just write a draft and then go back to it, read it and redraft it and improve it as you go along. Get some feedback, give it to somebody who can read it and give you some feedback. Ask your friends or someone who is not familiar with the topic that you're writing to read it and tell you if it's clear or not, if it's making sense or not. Give it to your friends, give it to somebody who's not your friend and in the wider context. So if they're able to read it, they'll be able to give you that feedback. Respect that feedback and make any changes that you think are useful from that particular feedback. Proofread your paper, proofread the text that you're writing before submitting or before sending it to whoever you want to send it to. So these are some of the information which I hope you have found useful in terms of reading and in terms of how you can structure reading, regardless what is it for, be it's for writing an assignment, be it is for writing an essay or a dissertation or thesis or anything else like that. Please do keep these strategies and let me know if these are helpful. Please do subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that you're notified about the future videos on the topic. Thank you very much for listening.